Welcome back. If you've ever been here before, but okay, so we're gonna talk crap, right? That was all the game plan for the channel. Um, talk crap doesn't mean I know anything, but we're just doing it for fun. Chances are nobody will ever see the video except for like 3 or 4 people I tell. So let's jump right into it. We're gonna talk crap about the moon landing, right? Okay. I will say right away, I believe it happened. It seems really ridiculous that people even act like it didn't happen. And I'm not going to back up anything with like facts and whatnot. It's just I've had conversations online recently with people, and to me, yeah, they just seem crazy. I People believe what they want to believe, and I have a theory here, right? This is my working theory on why people believe the way. Like, you can't convince somebody of something they don't want to be convinced of, right? The Brad theory. So years ago, I worked with a guy named Brad who went to college. He was a college educated, graduated, so there's some level of intelligence, right? He was married, and at the time he didn't have a kid, but he became a father, all that kind of stuff, held a job, had car payments, all that kind of stuff. So he was a normal human being that could walk around and accomplish stuff, right? We had a conversation about Gene Simmons from Kiss and his long tongue. Brad believed that he had a cow's tongue grafted, whatever you call it, into his mouth. So cow's tongue is like this big, right? So it's like the size of a person's head. And Brad believed it was put in Gene Simmons in his mouth in the early 70s, right? They came out in like 72, 73. So somewhere back then, he convinced that, or somebody told him, or he read it or whatever, but he was convinced that somehow we had the technology to do that, to put a cow's tongue in a person's mouth and then be able to use it to talk and sing. Seems insane to me. And no matter what I did when I talked to him about it, he would not change his mind. Like, he just absolutely 100% believed that, and you could not convince him that it was not a cow's tongue in Gene Simmons' mouth. That seems insane to me, right? So here's a guy that is college educated, holds a job, you can have normal conversations with a kid, and yet he would believe something so wacky that it just seems insane. And that's my Brad theory, that you just aren't going to believe something unless you choose to allow yourself to believe it. So that's what I think is the moon landing problem. People don't want to believe that we landed on the moon. Now, first off, my biggest question is, when it happened, why did Russia and China and whoever else we were at the race with to do it not disagree with it? Now, years later, they have. I think China fully disagrees, and Russia says they don't believe it, but they're not challenging, or like China is saying that it didn't happen. But at the time when we were in the moon rush there in the race, why didn't they come out and go, "Oh, this was fake. That's fake. It didn't happen"? It's because they knew it happened. They were watching, and they followed the whole thing. So it happened. And all the like Stanley Kubrick stuff, where he did it in a sound studio and then put clues to it in The Shining. I mean, how far do you have to grasp, right? Just to try to convince yourself that it didn't happen. The Brad theory. You won't allow yourself to believe it. There's several bits of evidence out there. Have there been, like, I know there's a video or a photo that they think was faked, but the theory behind that is like some of it got, what was it? It got put out, but it was part of the promotional stuff or something, and pushing the envelope to be able to go, and they were testing and all that kind of stuff. And so, okay, so there's one photo or a couple of photos or something that don't fit in, but I mean, at the same time, that doesn't mean it didn't happen. It just seems like that to be a smoking gun is ridiculous, which there is never a smoking gun. Ask Alec Baldwin, right? He had a gun in his hand, and it was probably a little bit of smoke coming out, and he didn't get convicted of murder, which I agree. I'm not saying he should have, because that's a different theory, story, whatever. Another video to talk crap about. But look, I'm not saying that I know that it happened. I'm just saying the evidence really proves it. And yeah, you can find little bits and pieces. Somebody argued about a moon rock being fake, and then when I looked into it and everything, they're like, yeah, the rock was not. It was some kind of petrified something, tree or something, but the actual rock, that wasn't supposed to be the actual rock. The actual rock was in some other museum or some miscommunicated kind of thing. And so that's not like, oh my God. And even still, even if they gave him a fake rock, that doesn't mean we didn't have the moon rock. Maybe they just didn't want to give it away for, hey, let's give away this resource that we went up there and got. Well, not a resource, but, a research thing. Whatever. So again, just saying, seems crazy to me. Can't understand why people won't buy into something, and it's the Brad theory. You just can't convince somebody who doesn't want to be convinced, no matter what the evidence is. And there's enough evidence to prove that we went there. And the fact that China and Russia did not disagree, and it was decades later before any of it, like, they even came up with a whole, like, oh, well, it didn't happen, or maybe it didn't happen. So why would they had everything to lose in that, right? And they could have disagreed, and then it would have been questioned, but it hasn't been questioned until now, until people came up with theories. And look, yeah, it's the whole moon thing is, there's so much evidence that, like, you look into some things and you're like, oh, okay, I believe that and I believe that. But there's things you look into and you can't believe, right? Fine, whatever. But come on, they went to the moon. It's not that hard to believe. Just stop telling yourself that it didn't happen. Look at the real evidence. And not all of it's going to be perfect, right? It's just how things are. Things get misconstrued or forgotten or accidentally put in or whatever. So, yeah, we talk crap about the moon landing. Could I be wrong? I could be wrong. I'm not saying that I know everything, but it just, most likely, just, come on. We landed on the moon. It's pretty easy to tell that we landed on the moon. If you agree that we landed on the moon, subscribe, right? And like. If you don't believe that we landed on the moon, subscribe and like anyways, because it's just for fun. Bye.